Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today we're going to be doing a Traptrix Ragnaraika deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Wesley. And this deck is an extremely powerful deck to be able to play because of just how well Ragnaraika and Traptrix work together. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. And definitely give Wesley some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Traptrix Marmelio. Marmelio is one of the best normal summons in the entire deck, because this card, just like all your other Traptrix monsters, is unaffected by the effect of whole normal trap cards. But when this card is normal summon, you can add a whole normal trap card directly from your deck to your hand, instantly getting you to your copy of Holotea. This card also has the ability, if this card is special summon, you can target a spell or trap card that your opponent controls and destroy that target. We then play 3 copies of Traptrix Mantis. Mantis is a great normal summon in this deck as well, because this card has the ability that when this card is normal summon, you get a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand, essentially being the Stratos of the deck. We then play 3 copies of Pudica. Pudica is amazing because this card can instantly search our field spell, which is really cool. This card is unaffected by the effect of normal trap holes as well, and you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn. That when this card is normal summon, you can add a Traptrix Garden from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to instantly get to Traptrix Garden, which basically gives us an additional normal summon, which is awesome. This card also has the ability, if this card is special summon, you can target a special summon monster that your opponent controls and banish it. Also, during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon one of their banished monsters, but it's still a pretty cool effect just to get a monster out of the way. We then play 2 copies of Dionia. Dionia is really good as a 2-of in the build because this card is a very versatile card with the ability, this card has the effect that when this card is normal summon, you can target a Traptrix monster in your graveyard and special summon that target in defense position. But when this card is special summon, you can target a whole normal trap card in your graveyard and set that target to your side of the field, but banish it during the end phase of your next turn if it's still on the field, which is just a great ability because this card helps you recover a bunch of cards out of the graveyard. We then play 2 copies of Arachnicampa. Arachnicampa is an extremely helpful extender for the deck, and this card has the ability it's unaffected by the effects of normal whole trap cards, and it also has a great ability that basically during the main phase, if you control a Traptrix monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card in your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters in the extract for the rest of the turn except insect or plant monsters, which is not that big of a deal, but it is an effect that you have to watch out for as you're playing this deck because you don't want to lock down yourself from going into a bunch of your awesome plays. We then play 3 copies of Ragnaraika, the Evil Seed. Evil Seed is definitely a 3-of in the build, and this card is such a powerful card in the deck because it has the ability you can special summon this card from your hand by sending one insect, plant, or reptile monster from your hand to the graveyard. And you can only special summon this card once per turn this way. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can add to your hand up to 2 different Ragnaraika cards that are banished and or in your deck, except another copy of this card, then banish 1 card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn, except insect, plant, or reptile monsters, which is not that big of a deal, because that's usually all we're summoning anyways. We then play a single copy of Samurai Beetle. Samurai Beetle is definitely a 1-of in the build, and this card has a really cool ability that you can special summon this card from your hand by placing one and banish insect, plant, or reptile monster on the bottom of your main deck, which is such a cool ability just to extend your plays and instantly get this card out on your side of the field, as your copy of Evil Seed sets this card up. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for a Ragnaraika linked monster, you can actually target 1 level 4 or lower insect, plant, or reptile monster in the graveyard and special summon it in defense position, which is a great effect. We then play a single copy of Armored Lizard. Armored Lizard is a great 1-of in the build. You never want to see this card in your opening hand, but you do need to play this card in the deck as a 1-of just to be able to extend your Ragnaraika plays. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just an amazing 3-of just from stopping your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 2 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is really good as a 2-of in the build, basically just to stop your opponent's monster effects and lock down them by stopping those monster effects. We then play a single copy of Nibiru. Nibiru is really good in the deck as a 1-of because we also play Crossout Designator in the build, which is why I play the single copy of Nibiru just to stop Nibiru from being dropped against us, and it's also a pretty good hand trap to be able to see because it's very easy to out the token in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Traptrix Garden. Traptrix Garden is definitely a 1-of in the build, and this card is so easy to get to with your copy of Pudica. This card has the ability, during your main phase, you can normal summon a Traptrix monster in addition to your normal summoner set, which is a great ability to just give you an additional normal summon. And the first time each insect or plant monster you control would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. You can also banish a monster that you control to special summon a Traptrix monster from your hand or graveyard, which is a really cool ability to be able to use this card. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is definitely a 1-of in the deck just to stop your opponent's hand traps when we're going in for all of our plays. We then play 2 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator helps out a lot in the build, but you really only need 2 copies of this card to stop cards like Nibiru, Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, or any of the hand traps that your opponent might drop against you. We then also play 2 copies of Ragnaraika Bloom. Bloom is really cool as a 2-of in the build, but in this particular build, since we're splashing Ragnaraika into Traptrix, I feel like you only need 2 copies of this card. It has a really cool ability that insect, plant, and reptile monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. Also, all other monsters on the field lose 300 attack and defense, and during your main phase, you can activate one of these effects to add a Ragnaraika monster from your deck to your hand, then discard a card, or special summon one of your Ragnaraika monsters from your hand, graveyard, or banishment in defense ocean, which is a pretty cool effect. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Hunting Dance. Hunting Dance is definitely a 1-of in the build, and it's just an awesome card that we can search off our copy of Mantis, and it has the ability you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of different monster types among link monsters that you control that are insect, plant, or reptile and destroy them, which is a great ability to be able to pop multiple cards on the field. This card is definitely a 1-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. I absolutely love this Trap Hole card. It's really good in this deck as a 1-of because if your opponent has special summon a monster this turn, you can target one monster that your opponent controls with 2,000 or more attack points and destroy it. Then, if you have a whole normal trap card in your graveyard, you can banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard as well, which is such a cool effect. We then play a single copy of Grave Trap Hole. Grave Trap Hole is really good as a 1-of in the build because when your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or their graveyard, or when your opponent's banished monster effect is activated, negate that effect, and if you do, inflict 2,000 points of damage to your opponent, which is a great effect to be able to use just to stop an opponent's monster effect while also doing 2,000 points of burn damage. We then play a single copy of Floodgate Trap Hole. Floodgate is really good in the deck just to flip your opponent's monsters face down. We then play a single copy of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. I really like this card as a 1-of in the deck, and it's the classic Traptrix Trap Hole, which is really cool. And this card is just great to be able to deal with your opponent's monsters. We then play 3 copies of Holotea. Holotea is definitely a 3-of in the build, and this card is just an awesome extender in the deck because you can activate this card the turn it was set by discarding a normal trap card, and it also has the ability to special summon this card in defense position as a normal monster that's a plant earth level 4 400 attack and 2400 defense, and this card is not treated as a trap card. You can also banish this card from your graveyard to target a Traptrix monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but you can only use one effect this card per turn and only once that turn. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is just a fantastic hand trap to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. We can also stop our opponent from dropping Infinite Impermanence against us since we do play Crossout Designator in the deck, and it's why I just played 2 copies of Effect Veiler in this build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start with a single copy of Stag Sovereign. Stag Sovereign is definitely a one-of in the build because this card has the ability if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's deck and or extra deck, except during the damage step, you can actually destroy 2 monsters on the field, which is a great ability to pop 2 cards on the field. I love that about this card. It's just absolutely broken to be able to use. This card also has the ability if this card's in your graveyard, you can actually target 1 insect, plant, or reptile monster that you control and place it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do special summon this card, also you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except insect, plant, or reptile monsters, which is not that big of a deal, because that's usually all we're summoning. We can play a single copy of Chain Coils. Chain Coils is definitely a one-of in the build, that if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can actually activate this effect that neither player can activate the effects of monsters in the hand this turn, which is such a cool ability for this card to have. We then play a single copy of Mantis Monk. Mantis Monk is definitely a one-of in the build, because you can actually banish 2 insect, plant, or reptile monsters from your graveyard to add a Ragnaraika trap from your deck to your hand, which is going to be able to get to our copy of Hunting Dance. We can play a single copy of Skeletal Soldier. Skeletal Soldier is definitely a one-of in the build because this card has the ability that you can target a Ragnaraika monster in your graveyard and special summon a defense solution, which is just going to help you link climb into your other Ragnaraika cards. We then play a single copy of the Plant Link 4. This card is definitely a one-of in the build and just a really good boss monster to be able to play in the deck. We then play a single copy of Jasmine. Jasmine helps out a lot in this build just as a one-up to be able to work with some of our other cards in the deck, like our copy of our Rika Queen. This card also is really good in the deck because it has a crazy powerful effect that you can treat a monster this card points to special summon a plant monster from your deck and defense position, which helps us get to our copy of Evil Seed, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Traptrix Adipus. Adipus is really good as a one-up just to be able to OTK your opponent, as it makes your monsters absolutely massive, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of the Traptrix Link 2. This card is just a really good option to be able to play in the build, which is why I play this card as a one-of in the deck. We then play just 2 copies of Sarah in this build. I wanted to play 3 copies, but since we are playing Ragnaraika in this build, I did have to make room for the Ragnaraika card, so I dropped this card down to 2. But this card is amazing in the build because this card's Link Summon, or this Link Summon card is unaffected by trap effects, and you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, and not during the damage step. That if a normal trap card is activated, you can special summon a Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name than cards that you control, and if your other Traptrix monster effect is activated, you can set a whole normal trap directly from your deck, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of the Rika Queen. Rika Queen is really good as a one-of in the build, so we can step into our copy of the Sacred Tree Beast using this card's ability, which is a really cool thing to be able to do because your copy of Sacred Tree Beast is basically a walking negate. We then play a single copy of Pangicula. Pangicula is just really good as a one-of in the build, as this card has the ability while it has materials unaffected by trap effects and the activated effects of other monsters with the same type as monsters with this card has material. This card also has the ability you need to attach a material from this card to add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect. You then play a single copy of Alamiris. Alamiris is just a really good option to be able to make just in case you need to. And then we play a single copy of Rafflesia. Rafflesia is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck and just a really cool one-of in this build. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. I love Ragnaraika, and it's just really cool to be able to splash them into different decks because they're almost like Tri-Brigade, but they're really cool to be able to play. I absolutely love playing Traptrix Ragnaraika, and I think it's a really cool combo to be able to play. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell in there so you can come to our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.